Hey y'all, meteorologist Erica Lopez. Happy last day of summer. 3 words I kind of dread because I'm very much a summer person. But hey, let us know where you are for the last day of summer in the comments. And make sure if you're watching us on our YouTube page to subscribe and even like if you want to see more of this content. But we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about a little bit about what's going on in the tropics, check in with our storm chaser, Jayjack, and of course, give you the forecast. A lot of the country is starting to get in on this fall air all across the United States. But we're going to take a look at first what we've seen so far with our tropical season. So I want to go over what we've seen exactly in terms of storm names. We've already had our 17th named storm, which was Rose, and Rose is still out in the Atlantic as we speak. But if you take a look at the list, yeah, this hurricane season has been pretty busy. And the next name on the list is Sam. We're 4 away from using our supplemental list, which they did change last year into names. So if we get any more storms to form, which is looking likely, especially with an area we're watching in the tropics, we're going to get our next name, Storm Sam, then go down the list to Teresa, Victor, and then eventually Wanda, and be done with that. But let's take a look at what's going on exactly on our app on what's going on with the tropics, because we're still tracking a couple of systems, and we are talking about Tropical Storm Peter, which recently the NHC has downgraded to a tropical depression. We're also still tracking Tropical Storm Rose out in the Atlantic as well. But checking in on Peter right now, like I said, the latest update right now has it as a tropical depression, and it's the one that's a little bit closer to home. Right now has wind speeds up to 35 miles per hour sustained and gusts up to 46 miles per hour. It was battling a little bit of wind shear, so it looks like it succumbed to the wind shear and was downgraded to a tropical depression. Our next storm, Tropical Storm Rose, it's still holding on as a tropical storm. It was forecast to turn into a tropical depression, which is going to be in the next coming hours. But right now, 40 mile per hour wind speeds, also with gusts up to 52 miles per hour. Both of these are no threat to land, although Peter did bring in a little bit of tropical moisture to areas in Hispaniola and even Puerto Rico. The one area we're watching to the north of Peter and Rose is a low or medium probability of formation, 40% chance of development in the next 5 days. And this was actually the remnants of what was Odette. And so this is going over water and right now has a little bit of moisture, but right now remains with medium percent chances of formation. And then the last one, this is the one that I've been saying all week that we're going to be tracking over the next couple of days. And this is Invest 98L. Right now has a high chance of formation, 90% chance. So it may form into either a tropical depression or storm as we get into your Thursday and Friday. But I'll detail out those that forecast at the end of the stream. So make sure you're sticking around because we'll talk a little bit about what it's looking like, at least for us back here in the United States. So of course, we're talking about the last day of summer and what's going on all across the country. And we have to bring in storm chaser Jayjack, who's in Canada, and he is seeing all of this beautiful fall foliage out there in Canada. So Aaron, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing there.
Yeah, so it's like you said, it's the last day of summer. We're about to go into fall, and with that change in the seasons, you get shorter night or shorter days. The daylight, it gets darker sooner. Every day it's getting a little bit darker. The nights start getting colder, and that starts triggering these trees to start changing color. The leaves start producing chlorophyll, and they start changing various colors depending on what the species of tree is. And as the nights continue to get colder, eventually, those leaves, those trees are absorbing the nutrients out of those leaves, and they're trying to use to store up that energy for going into the long, cold winter ahead. So you get these beautiful views of the leaves, and I think you guys were showing the drone footage here. It looks like I was flying the drone around earlier. Besides just chasing storms, I also like to chase after the leaf peeping. There's lots of people that get out there and do that every year. Go and check out the various leaves all across the continent, depending on where you're at. I've seen beautiful ones in Colorado with the aspens that turn really gold, even up in towards Maine. Lots of trees in the East Coast there. So beautiful time of year, and I love checking out all the different leaf colors out there.
And Aaron, I'm a little jealous you're there. Canada is always the first place to see this kind of peak change, or I should say leaves changing into their colors. But in the United States, it does take a little bit longer. As you said, we do have to have those colder nights in place. So over the next couple of weeks, what do you think we'll see down here in the US?
Well, and I saw some talks of maybe some looks like some winter weather starting to arrive in the Colorado area, Wyoming. I think they've already starting to get snow at those upper peaks. There are people waking up. I saw some pictures on social media where they went to sleep the night before, and the mountains were clear of snow, and then they woke up the next morning and they're white tops again. So it's just right around the corner there. The leaves are going to start changing colors, and generally when I look for those leaves and I'm chasing after leaves, I'm looking at those higher elevations first, the northern tier of the country. But it was really beautiful scenes when you get into the mountains of Colorado. I shot some footage there of the leaves a couple of last season, I think, for MyRadar, and was showing that off with one of the live shows here like that. So it's a beautiful time of the year. If you're definitely, you don't have to be a storm chaser to get out there and experience this. Just get in your car and drive around, and especially with what's going on with pandemics and stuff, that's a safe way to get out there and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, Matt and Damien, do we have that graphic that's showing where the U.S. is seeing those peaks, at least climatologically? This isn't exactly when you're going to see the peaks of colors for the leaves, but this just shows you sort of a prediction map of where exactly you're going to start seeing them. And you're seeing there on your screen. So right now, we're not seeing very much. Like Aaron said, it's mostly in the Rockies, as right now they're seeing snow. But then as we head into later portion of the months, and even heading into October and November, that's when we're going to start to see the middle of the country, especially start to see that peak or near peak season for at least the leaves to start changing color. And then I was looking at this, Aaron, and I was waiting for this map to go all the way down to Florida. I was talking to Aaron, this is my first year in Florida. And so I was wondering if, Floridians even see these types of colors, but it looks like it's going to be very minimal, at least here.
Yeah, one of the important things, it sucks when they lose their leaves because they're so beautiful. Mm-hmm. But it's important as you get into the fall season, you start getting ice storms. And if the trees still have their leaves, mm-hmm. and you get one of those ice storms, that can be really damaging to power lines and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I chased an ice storm in Oklahoma last fall, mm-hmm. on the way down to chase a hurricane. And I don't know if you remember that, but that really bad ice storm that happened in Oklahoma. And mm-hmm. what amplified that was that the trees had not had a chance to lose their leaves yet. So, it's important that they lose their leaves, both for the trees' health and for our health and safety through the winter.
Yeah, that's good. I remember I grew up in Texas, and so when you'd get those really intense cold fronts that come in and just blow them all out, it's like, for me, it was like, oh man, fall's over and winter's already here. But yeah, that's a good point you made there, Aaron. But speaking of, storm systems and what we could see, I just wanted to remind y'all that the hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th. And of course, Aaron is always going out, especially the last couple of weeks. He went out to chase what was Hurricane Nicholas, made landfall in Texas. What's next for you, Aaron? What are you doing to prepare for the rest of hurricane season?
Yeah, so I'm starting to switch. So early on in the hurricane season, a lot of the hurricanes that the United States gets, they develop off of these waves of energy that mm-hmm. come off of the African continent. And as we start shifting more into the October month, you start seeing more of these hurricanes that hit the United States are more forming in like the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico area, just based on the wind currents. And as we progress through the fall season, how the different the jet streams and whatnot, troughs that come down mm-hmm. there, and the cold fronts can come through and wipe out the whole Gulf and actually protect the coast from hurricanes. So that's what I'm kind of watching now, starting to watch more of the Gulf and the Caribbean for development, and watching the models in that area.
All right, thank you, Aaron, so much. We always love seeing those fall colors and the trees changing colors. I can't wait, at least for some of the part of the country, to see the colors. I'll see if Florida gets in on that. But thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sending us those amazing images out there in Canada. Okay, so I want to show you a couple tower cameras from our WeatherStem partners, and I wanted to show you one that's in Michigan, Wayne County, Michigan. Right now, you're seeing beautiful blue skies, but I want you to notice that camera, and you're seeing that flag. That's a little bit of the wind that was lingering from what this front that's going through the country right now is doing. So right now, beautiful skies. Earlier when I was looking at this, there were some pretty intense storms. And if you take a closer look, I think you can see actually a little bit of those leaves starting to change there. So maybe they'll start to change overall in the next coming week. So be ready for that. But your cold front has passed through, no more rain. All you're gonna see is nice crisp air, dry air, but a little bit of wind lingering for you guys in Michigan. Okay, I want to take you back to the mid-Atlantic, also courtesy of our partners at WeatherSim, and this is NC State, North Carolina. Now, this is another area that's seeing a lot of that moisture right in front of what the front is doing. So today, really, if you're in North Carolina or anywhere in the mid-Atlantic, you'll see a little bit of that rain lingering into today and even into tomorrow, but then eventually by the end of the week, you'll get in on this fall crisp air. So don't worry, get ready for that, and maybe get out your pumpkin spice. I don't know if anybody's into that. Let me know in the comments. I am not a fan of pumpkin spice, but if you are, let me know. But yes, rainy areas there. Okay, I want to show you a couple of videos. In the first one, this is from Casper, Wyoming. This is hail footage. Don't be misled. This is not snow. This is hail on the ground. Looks like pea-sized hail, but a very intense storm moved through this area, and you're seeing a little bit of wind, but that's crazy. This looks like snow, but that's all hail. And of course, this is from yesterday. Pretty intense storms, and this does have to do with that cold front that has pushed through, caused a little bit of severe weather in these areas as well, from Wyoming to even parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So yeah, pretty crazy images. But taking it back to hurricane season, I wanted to give you an update on what's going on. This next image, courtesy of our tropicaltidbits.com. This is Invest 98L. So this is one that we're going to be tracking over the course of the next several days. You can kind of see how that convection is starting to bubble up. So that is a sign that this is starting to get its act together. As of right now, like I mentioned earlier, it does have a high chance of formation over the next coming days. And you know, seeing these images, incredible images as this is starting to get its act together over the next coming days. But let's take a look at the forecast, exactly what the models are thinking for Invest 98L, because as it came off the coast of Africa, been tracking this for a couple of days now, and you can see the models are trending, although it's a little too early to exactly pinpoint if it's going to affect the US, but right now the direction, people along Puerto Rico, the Cayman Islands, Hispaniola, be on alert because you might get a little bit of moisture from Invest 98L, and especially if you get a named storm, the next name on the list, Sam, it's definitely something that we're going to have to be watching over the next coming days. But overall, I wanted to recap what's going on over the last 24 hours. If you take a closer look at the map, you can see that line of rain stretching from the Midwest all the way down into the plains. That is actually our cold front, and that's what moved through Dallas. If you're in Dallas, Texas, you are starting to feel that crisp, dry air. But then a lot of other places right in front of the cold front are actually seeing a lot of that tropical moisture. So if you're anywhere in the mid-Atlantic to southeast, you are getting in on this rain over the next coming hours. But let's track it out. Here's your front, and I overlaid it with temperatures so you can see how that temperatures change over the next coming hours. So the next, let's say, hour or so, if you're anywhere from Florida to even Georgia and across the mid-Atlantic, you're going to get in on this showery activity. As we head into the overnight, you can see how our front progresses into parts of the southeast. And then you're seeing all that moisture. It's almost like a squeegee. You're squeegeeing out all of that moisture, especially if you're in Texas, you're used to a little bit of that humidity. Well, it's going to feel dry, and especially in parts of, let's say, Louisiana and the Gulf Coast, it'll feel pretty nice in those areas. So progressing your Wednesday, you can see by the afternoon, areas like Louisiana and even parts of South Alabama will feel this fall air. And then eventually by Thursday, areas in the mid-Atlantic and then across the southeast, you will feel it. But in Florida, it's going to be a very weak front. What it will do is bring the dew points down. So if you're in those areas, you are going to get a little bit of a relief from the humidity, but this won't last long. So enjoy these kind of conditions, especially if you are a fan of the fall weather. It's going to feel pretty nice over the next coming days, but not without leaving rain behind. So let's take a look at those rainfall totals. You're seeing 5 to 7 inches in those red areas. That's where you're going to see the most rain, and especially across the mid-Atlantic, even close to Washington, D.C., central PA, and even Raleigh, North Carolina. That tower camera showed you, those areas will see 5 to 7 possibly inches of rain over the next coming days. And across the southeast, just some lingering shower activity, 1 to 3 inches possible. So it'll be a rainy stretch before you are rewarded with those nice temperatures. But let's take a look at your high temperatures heading into tomorrow, and you're seeing 70s and 80s across the northeast. So the front hasn't moved into these areas, but it's still pretty nice. 74 in Philadelphia as your high temperature tomorrow, 73 in Washington, D.C., but you're seeing 50s and 60s across the Midwest. 64 in Lexington tomorrow, 72 in Nashville. I would take these temperatures any day. 79 in Myrtle Beach, and then across the southeast, 73 degrees in Atlanta. So that'll be a nice break there. But across areas in Florida, the front hasn't gotten to you yet, but you'll still be in the 80s with those dew points, making it feel close to the triple digits. And then across the plains, you're seeing a temperature of 83 degrees, 78 there in New Orleans. So that's pretty nice there. And then across the plains, 83 in Dallas. And I always like to point out Dallas, not because that's where I'm from, but they were in the triple digits earlier this week. So that's a dramatic change. And y'all are used to this, especially with the winds that are coming in. That's 83 degrees in Dallas. Oklahoma City, similar area, 79 degrees as your high temperature going into tomorrow. So that means waking up tomorrow morning, you're going to be in the 50s and 60s. Across the West Coast, triple digit heat continuing. So this is really the hottest area in the country right now with triple digit heat, temperatures up in the 90s, but across our coastal areas influenced by the marine layer, you're going to see temperatures in the 70s. And then across the Pacific Northwest, 70 degrees in Seattle, 78 in Rapid City, and then 86 in North Platte, Nebraska. So overall, a pretty nice pattern. At least enjoy it while it lasts, because these tend to, at least during this season, these temperatures can cool down, but they do tend to warm back up. But of course, we want to remind you of our fall sale, and this is online, store.myradar.com. So if you want any of these t-shirts, and I say these t-shirts are so soft, you definitely want one of these shirts, but we have a promo that you could use, a promo code fall10, and this is 10% off your entire order. So make sure you're getting this gear. It's so nice and comfy, and if I could wear my t-shirt all the time, I would. But we'll leave you with that, and I hope you're enjoying all these nice fall temperatures, but don't let your guard down. We're still in hurricane season, especially now with peak season, and this hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th, but we'll see you back here, and have a great rest of your Tuesday.